This episode is brought to you by Accenture. When your advertising operations fall out of sync, everything else follows. Spotify and Accenture are working together to reinvent the rhythm of ad sales, using automation, analytics, and smarter workflows to simplify campaign delivery and access better data across the business. The result? Less time spent on operations, more time connecting brands with the moments and fandoms that matter most. Learn more at accenture.com/Spotify.
Hey, it's Bill from the Bill Simmons podcast. FIFA World Cup 26 fans, listen up. Is the official beer sponsor of the FIFA World Cup 26. Michelob Ultra is giving away $1 million worth of FIFA World Cup 26 tickets and prizes. Enter now at MichelobUltra.com/superior access/FIFA World Cup 26. Michelob Ultra FIFA World Cup 26 superior access. No purchase necessary. Open U.S. residents 21 plus begins on December 1st, 2025. Ends on July 31st, 2026. Multiple entry periods. Visit www.MichelobUltra.com/superior access/FIFA World Cup 26 for free entry deadlines, prizes, and details.
The new LinkedIn Hiring Pro can't undo your last hire. The human postponer. They were the master of one phrase. I'll circle back on that. But 3 months later, you are the one doing all their work and wondering how big that circle is. But LinkedIn Hiring Pro can take the hiring load off your plate by automating the hiring busy work from the initial job post to scheduling interviews. Hire right the first time with LinkedIn Hiring Pro. Post a free job today at linkedin.com/quality.
This episode is brought to you by Google Health. Stop chasing someone else's definition of health. What matters is what's healthy for you. Google Health offers a new kind of coach built with Gemini for effortless tracking, sleep insights, and holistic coaching tailored to you. Visit googlestore.com to learn more and start a new relationship with your health. Requires Google account, Google Health app, internet, and Google Health Premium subscription. Features subject to change. Availability and results vary. Not intended for medical purposes. Works independently of Gemini apps. Check responses for accuracy.
Welcome to a very special presentation from Islanders Anxiety. I'm your host, Dan Saraceni. With me, of course, is always my friend Michael Lieboff. And Mike, we did not expect to have a sequel to A Canesmas Carol, our last special presentation that we did. But in the interim, the Hurricanes won the Stanley Cup, and their owner, Tom Dundon, continues to be a world-class dickhead. And it's proven itself once again. And so we are blessed with some content that I saw and immediately was like, oh man, we've got to do this our way. Without spilling too much before we get into it here, what did you make of this story that we're about to discuss and the kind of funny reactions to it that kind of came out towards the end of last week?
Well, yeah, my first thought was same as you, which was, I don't think, A Christmas Carol has been remade, maybe more
Sure.
than basically any piece of literature.
Right.
But there's no sequel, and that's what I thought about the our Canesmas Carol. This is a one and done. Maybe we'd get back to them next season or the season
Right.
after that, or when him and the city of Portland finally come to blows about him pretty ham-fistedly. Seems like he wants to move the team out of there.
Right.
But it took just a couple weeks. And what is the theme of A Canesmas Carol, at least for me, which was the fact that it was maddening that you, me, now the entire basketball world, and most people who aren't in hockey media or a Canes or a fan of the Carolina Hurricanes could see this guy for what he was. Well, Frege, I have to tell you, he's not the Jerry Jones of the NHL, at least in our eyes.
Right.
But we could see him for what he was, but he was him and the Hurricanes. Boy, people would rush. They ran, they didn't walk to be the first ones to always glaze these guys. And
Right.
now we're starting to see the same cast of characters fight back because he did something and he defiled something
Right.
that you can't defile in those same folks' eyes. It'd be akin to saying that Sidney Crosby is a bad person. These, there's two things you can't do to these people. The two cardinal sins, and one is do something like Tom Dundon did, and the other thing is to talk smack about Sidney Crosby, because if you do that, you're going to draw the ire of the insider industrial complex, and it seems like that is what has happened to Tom Dundon. And I must say, the when I saw this story pop up, I knew we were coming back, and I was quite excited to see what you were going to title it. I didn't know if it was just going to be a Canesmas Carol 2 or what. And you've outdone yourself here, because I've just been cracking up to myself the whole time. And I think if we did a 1-minute podcast where you just said the title of this special, I think it would be enough, because it's quite funny.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate that. So yes, the title of this particular special presentation is "Cheaper by the Dundon," which is a reference to "Cheaper by the Dozen," which most people know from its multiple movie iterations starring people like Myrna Loy, Steve Martin, most recently Gabrielle Union, Zach Braff. But it's actually those movies are actually based on a book, which was a semi-autobiographical novel by Frank Bunker Gilbreth Jr. and his wife Ernestine Gilbreth Carey. It was published in 1948, and it details their raising of their 12 kids right here in New Jersey, actually, which is really interesting. Nobody gives a shit about that. You hear "Cheaper by the Dozen," you immediately think of Steve Martin. No offense to anybody else who's been in any of these movies, but people immediately think of Steve Martin. But hopefully by the end of this, you'll think of us, and hopefully not thinking of Tom Dundon. But yeah, "Cheaper by the Dundon" is what we're going with here. I was originally going to do Little Dundons in a tribute to Louisa May Alcott and Little Women, my wife's favorite book, but I thought this was a lot better. And we're going to get into why we are calling this "Cheaper by the Dundon" in a few minutes. Real quick, though, a couple of things. One, this is going out on the main feed. If you're one of our regular listeners who's an Islanders fan and you're like, this is great, but we want some Islander stuff here. During the summer, that stuff mostly lives on the Patreon. In fact, just the other night, we did our monthly mailbag episode for July. So if you want Islanders content, it was 2 hours of Islanders content and questions. Head on over to patreon.com/IslandersAnxiety. Sign up for the Country Club tier, and you can get that as well as all of our summertime content. And then obviously we'll be back in October with the normal Islanders Anxiety season. Also at the Patreon, if you're not a patron, that's okay, because I actually just created a collection of free stuff. It's got Islanders Anxiety episodes. There's a mailbag episode in there. There's a Master Leaf Theater episode in there. If you're wondering why we're doing this at all, you can go and check that out. There's some written posts, including some free posts that have been written by guests and friends of ours, which we started doing this summer. So if you go to patreon.com/IslandersAnxiety, go to collections, scroll down to where it says, "Whoa, free stuff." And there's a picture of Al Pacino. Don't ask. I just had it around. I figured I'd use it. And you can just check out all that stuff there if you want to get a little bit more of a sample of what we're all about. So that's the business end of this. Now we can get into the meat of "Cheaper by the Dundon." And what's nice about this is we don't have to give a preamble because it's already been done for us. And we're going to start with our first reading. Mike, if you would, please read the first section we have here from an article from the LA Times by Chuck Shilkin. And it's entitled, "Hurricanes owner Tom Dundon has names of wife, kids engraved on Stanley Cup above actual players."
Gladly. A total of 53 names have been engraved onto the Stanley Cup to represent the 2026 champion. At the very top of the list is team owner Tom Dundon and his wife and their 5 children, whose ages are believed to range from single digits to mid-20s. The Dundon family comprises the entire first 2 rows of names on the iconic chalice, even though Papa Dundon is the only one who holds a position within the organization.
Phenomenal. And right off the bat, you can see what the problem is here. There are 7 Dundons on the Stanley Cup before a player is even mentioned, and that is highly unusual for the NHL in many ways, as we'll see throughout this. I saw this and immediately started laughing. I didn't see it here, but this was a perfect, way to start this. But when I saw this, I was like, seriously? Really? They did that? And I almost couldn't believe it. Like, I had to read several articles about this to understand like how this can possibly happen. And we'll get to many of the ways why in a minute. But what did you think when you first saw that Tom Dundon and had his wife and 5 kids put on the Stanley Cup after the Hurricanes' victory.
Well, I knew something was going to happen, right? Like this guy is absolute. He's just
Yeah.
I don't know. I know later we'll hear someone say he's got like main character energy. I don't even think that's it. He's like got
This
something
asshole
else.
energy.
Yeah, he's just like exactly. Yeah, he is something completely different from that. I don't even think it's anything to do with him wanting to be like the main character. I think it's more of a double middles and be like, I'm gonna do this the way I want to do it. And
Right.
my first thought was not the NHL itself, but the NHL media echo chamber. They kind of deserve some of the blame here because they built this guy up to like to make him seem like this cool,
Right.
ruthless in a sports way and in a business way, as we went over in.
He's like a rebel. He's a renegade.
Yeah, exactly. Like exactly, a renegade is a perfect word. Like he's a renegade. He's not your typical hockey man, and forget all the stuff about the subprime mortgages and all that. Like don't pay attention to that. Just the way he's running his team. Who cares that he won't even pay Rod Brindamore a fair salary, and Rod Brendamore's like giving money away to his assistant coaches to make sure that they don't leave because Tom Dundon won't pay them a fair wages for what they contribute. Forget all that stuff. This guy is a renegade. So yeah, like when he's like a movie character where he wins over like a bunch of people in the cast, and there's that one person who just doesn't trust them. You see this trope a lot in like coming of age movies, like set in high schools with like the cool new rich kid, and like everyone's like, oh yeah, no, he's not that bad, he's cool, and like we're going to his party, and he was built up by this insider NHL media industrial complex, and so I'm not surprised that he thought he had the kind of, I don't know, the wherewithal to do this. Like I'm not surprised he thought himself and his family above the game and the sport and the cup and all that, because he's been told time and again by the same people who, once again, we'll get to later, that he is the coolest guy. He's a cool cat and a renegade. So I wasn't surprised that he pulled a stunt like this. Was my first thought, and I'm happy that finally, like, he's catching some heat from these same people who, once again, have been lapping up this guy for. We bought the team in 2018. I would say they became like the cool pet team in 2019 when that year they beat us in the playoffs, the first year.
Yeah,
he started to like become everyone's favorite owner in the media. So if you tell that somebody he's like the best and the coolest enough times, he's gonna think himself above above the show, and he certainly showed that with this stunt.
Right. Yeah, I mean, he's never had any use for sort of the established way of doing things in the NHL, which is, can be an admirable quality. And again, it's like you said, he got him a lot of fans in hockey media circles. And there's another reason why he's got a lot of fans in hockey media circles, and that's because he hires a lot of the hockey media circles friends. Tyler Dello is down there. There have been other people, Eric Tulsky, who was a blogger and, kind of know, like, he's the general manager now, but he was, a data analyst or whatever before that. So he hires a lot of these people's friends, and all of a sudden they talk about this guy as if he is God's gift to the NHL. And, throw in the team is very successful. They've, have Rod Brindamore as their coach. They've got a lot of guys who people are happy to root for and stuff. And it makes for a perfect storm of like, isn't this the coolest guy? And it's like, it reminds me of the episode of Seinfeld where Elaine is dating a really handsome guy played by Dan Cortez, who used to be on MTV Sports. And like George has like a crush on him, and he's like, he's trying to like replicate him. He's like, hey, Tony. And he like gets his hat backwards and he's like, they're going rock climbing. And he's like, I made salmon salad sandwiches because I know you don't like peanut butter. Like, it's a little bit like that. Like Tom Dundon is Dan Cortez, and the hockey media are George Costanza in this case, like trying to be like, buddying up to him and stuff, and wanting to be closer to him than Elaine even is his girlfriend. And so that's the way that's the relationship sort of there. And like you said, what's really interesting to me, and as we go on with this, you'll see, this was a bridge too far, I think, for a lot of these folks. And like, winning the cup in a lot of ways, as we talked about, I think recently, and probably on our last episode of Islanders Anxiety, was like this, they almost felt like they won the cup too. Like the people at the Athletic almost felt like this was their cup because their friends were on the team. And it's like, okay, well, good for you. Like that's great. But now this putting his family members on the Stanley Cup before the players is something that even they can't abide by. And we'll get into the many reasons why as we go on. Let's talk about who are the people that are on the cup. Who actually did Tom Dundon put on here? And for that, we turn to this article here by Daniel Chavkin from the Sporting News, which is titled, "Why Hurricanes Owner is Facing Criticism for Having Entire Family Engraved on Stanley Cup." And the excerpt reads like this. He says, "Here are the names of the 7 members of the Dundon family who had their names engraved on the Stanley Cup. Tom Dundon. Dundon bought the Hurricanes in 2018 and has been the majority owner throughout Carolina's recent string of success. He is a billionaire who made his money in real estate and financial services and recently also bought the Portland Trail Blazers." We'll get back to that in a minute. Verushka Dundon. Dundon's wife is Verushka Dundon, who largely stays out of the spotlight. The couple has 5 children together, most of them under the age of 18. Caden Dundon. The first of the Dundon children engraved on the Stanley Cup is Caden, who takes up the final spot on the first row next to Tom and Verushka. Dax Dundon. Dax Dundon's name is the first name on the second row of the cup, a row made up entirely of Dundon's children. Drew Dundon. Next to Dax's name is Drew, whose name on the cup is directly above General Manager Eric Tulsky's name. Blake Dundon. The fourth Dundon child on the cup is Blake, who has a spot above head coach Rod Brindamore. Tegan Dundon. Finally, Tegan Dundon rounds out the Dundon family's run of names on the Stanley Cup. As has been pointed out, pretty much everybody here is under the age of 18, and if I'm not mistaken, Tegan, the final one there, is 7? Yeah. I believe 7 years old, and her name is on the Stanley Cup. I wish they had put the ages here, but I think even without them, you kind of get the idea of what's going on here. Everybody from Verushka on down to Tegan does not work for the Carolina Hurricanes. They simply are related to, and in most cases, the offspring of the owner. And now their name is on the Stanley Cup. This is incredibly off protocol, but I thought this list was very helpful in knowing who the Dundon children are and why this is so ridiculous. Listing them made it seem even more ridiculous.
It does. It does. And I give a lot of credit to Daniel Chavkin of the Sporting News for specifically detailing the real estate they take up.
Yeah.
Which is great. Dax Dundon is right above, Eric Tulsky's name. Or
yeah, that perfectly captures it.
Oh, it's so good. It's so good. And and this is so we shouldn't be surprised because Tom Dundon at every chance has proven to be an absolute sociopath, and this is right up his alley. And I keep thinking about how when this happened and the backlash, kind of hit a fever pitch. It's what a few days after free agency had ended, basically, like a week after. So all the hockey media had retreated. They packed up and posted their pictures on Lake Ontario for the summer, and
right, old cabin.
And the only thing that would get them out of the cabin is Leo Carlson offer sheet. If John Chayka has a press conference at the Ford Performance Theater, I mean the Ford Performance Theater, the Ford Performance Center, or something like this, and immediately they all come out, and it makes sense because I want to imagine Pierre LeBrun or Chris Johnston or even like someone like Ron McLean just reading down I'm sure they love the day that the Stanley Cup gets posted, like the picture, the new engravings. Right. There's always like a dramatic tweet or picture. It's like the newest names etched into the into history. And I would have loved to watch like Ron McLean be like, like someone who's waiting for like a magazine to come and just like open it up, cup of coffee on the shores of Lake Ontario and just go down the line.
Tom wants to get that new cup ring smell.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. There's Tom Dundon's name. Verushka Dundon. Okay. Dax Dundon. And just spitting his coffee out, basically. Right. It just, I gotta get Frege on the phone, and get me young Bukauskas.
Right.
And this that's what I've been imagining with when you were reading these names, just thinking about those guys and how they just must have been, I hope they feel like fools. I do. I'm going to say that over and over in this episode. I really hope these people feel like fools for being like all over this guy, basically tucking him in at night, and now being turning on him because of this. And hey, man, this behavior was there all along. It wasn't as smacked in the face as it was, but it's pretty close. He was pretty close to doing this metaphorically for quite some time. So they made their bed here.
Yeah. We're going to get to some people who kind of saw this coming in a little bit. We've got some tweets to read towards the back half of this, but I want to point out something here also that Daniel Chavkin mentions in this article, which is that Tom Dundon is a billionaire who made his money in real estate and financial services.
Yeah.
That's a very, very diplomatic way of saying this guy got rich on subprime auto loans that took advantage of, people in predatory ways. And to hear more about that, check out our Canesmas Carol special that we did before the Hurricanes won the Cup. But there have been a ton of articles about this. And this guy, he's a billionaire, all right, but how he got there, not exactly the nicest way to do that, taking advantage of people in their car loans. But, the thing I feel bad, and I want to get this out of the way before we move on to stuff and make more fun of this whole situation. But like, I do feel bad for the kids because while it's fun for us to watch the hockey media and the hockey establishment turn on this guy who we've always thought is a piece of garbage, I would hate for these kids to like hanging out in the neighborhood or at school, in September and hear like, boy, your dad really screwed up the Stanley Cup, like, and that kind of thing. Like that would really suck. And it's like, I don't think Tegan Dundon was, stamping her feet on the ground to have her name put on the cup. If she was, that's a different story. And maybe, Tom has some other issues going on there, but like assuming that didn't happen, that, her and Blake and Drew and Dax and Caden didn't get together like a whole family, like an episode of the Brady Bunch and like, kind of conspire to get their name on the cup here. I just feel bad for them that they're probably going to hear about this at some point from somebody. I do not feel bad for Tom Dundon, who hopefully feels pretty bad about this, along with all the people in the hockey media who we talked about, who I also don't feel bad for because, sometimes a snake is a snake, and I don't care how many, people he hires that you follow on Twitter, the guy's still kind of a snake, and this has been proven time and time again. But we have other things to get to here. So if there's a limit to how many people you can put on the cup. You only have so much space on that ring there. And also, by the way, just as an aside, as this was making the rounds and people were kind of reacting to this, mostly negatively, by the way, we'll get to some positive reactions again towards the end of this, but mostly negative. I saw a lot of people being like, why are all the letters on the cup all kind of like jacked up and weird looking? Do people not understand that somebody does this by hand? Like, have they never seen the video of the Stanley Cup engraver, who's generally like a guy in his 90s? He's like the guy from Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade who lives in the cave, watching over the Holy Grail. Like, that's the person who does this. Like, he's doing this by hand. This is hard, painstaking, backbreaking work. And this guy had to spend God only knows how long carving this man's family members into the Stanley Cup, one letter at a time. So I'm sorry if they're, maybe a micrometer off, per letter, but I saw that and I'm like, do people not understand what goes into engraving the Stanley Cup? It's kind of a painstaking process. I wouldn't want to do it.
Yeah, no, I find that that's something that happens with like a lot of when these stories pop up and you're like, wait, don't you guys realize that this is how this works and stuff? But yeah, I know. I want that guy, that whoever that old gentleman is that chisels this away must have been like, there's another one.
Right. Dax Dundon. That's a name, really? It's a little bit like the World Cup is going on now. We're a few days away from the final, and I keep reading articles about how many people like myself have been watching it on Telemundo. And it's almost like this incredible thing. Like, why would people who don't speak Spanish watch the games on Telemundo? And I almost feel like saying, like, you realize that most games don't require play-by. Like, I don't need to hear what the play-by-play is saying to understand the game, right? It's soccer. The ball either goes into the net or it doesn't. It's really not that complicated. I'm not trying to study the game here. I can watch anything without commentary. It's totally fine. Like, I'm able to follow the game. I feel like there's a lot of people who don't follow sports and are like, how could you watch a game and not know what they're saying? Dude, I'm trying my best to tune out what they're saying for the most part. And I say that as a person whose team has a great broadcast crew. Like, those guys are good. Brendan and Butch and Shannon and the whole crew, they're all very good. But a lot of times, we've had enough conversations about ESPN hockey games for me to know that I do not need to hear what they're saying in order to enjoy the game, thankfully, because when those guys come on, I turn the volume all the way down. But now we're off the subject. Anyway, as I was saying, there's only so much space on the ring of the cup, or that section of the ring, for names. In fact, you only get 55 names. And with 7 Dundons on there, that meant that some people didn't make it on there. And there is another article here, I'll take care of this, from Eric Fisher, which was written in the Front Office Sports. And it explains the consequences of Tom Dundon putting all of his, kids on the cup. And it says, the title of it is, Carolina owner faces backlash for engraving kids' names on Stanley Cup. And Eric Fisher writes, because of the maximum number of 55 names that can be engraved on the Stanley Cup, the inclusion of all the Dundon children helped result in some others in the Hurricanes organization being omitted, as it settled on a final list of 53 engraved names. One who was left off was longtime equipment manager Bobby Gorman, with the franchise since its prior era as the Hartford Whalers, and on the Stanley Cup honoring the team's 2006 win. Another omitted name was defenseman Joel Nystrom, who played 38 regular season games for Carolina. Also left out were the team's 3 minority owners. So, equipment manager who goes back to Hartford,
yep,
guy who played almost half the season for them, and 3 minority owners are out, but Tom Dundon's 7-year-old daughter is in. I think you're starting to see the problem here, right?
Oh my God. And I just love that last line too. Also left out were the team's 3 minority team owners. Like what? You know what's amazing here is there was such an easy way to do this.
Yeah.
Which is Tom Dundon and the Dundon family or something like, you could have just done that or whatever. I don't know the rules about the Stanley Cup, but I know one of the unwritten rules, which is you don't do this. So I it's just so good. It's so good. I feel so bad for this Bobby Gorman character.
Right.
I mean, I know he's on there already from 2006.
Right. I think he's retiring this year as well.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And like, there's all these pictures of like the guys hugging him afterwards, and like he just looks like the happiest guy ever. What a way to go into your, to sail off into the sunset, right? I was talking about Ron McLean reading these things. Like, imagine being Bobby Gorman being like, what? And I'll say it, we've known forever that this is the other thing that's always driven me up a wall about the Eric Tulsky love affair among everyone all his friends, like you said. Everybody in it's a pretty well-known secret that he's just that Tom Dundon is the GM there, right? Like he says do this and Tulsky does
According
it.
to Nick Kiprios, yes.
Yes. Yeah. Kipper would know.
Right.
And I think it is a pretty common, out there, unconfirmed truth, I guess we'll call it. But that this guy doesn't have the he just won Tom Dundon a Stanley Cup. He could have been like, "Hey man, don't do this." You don't think that he can't look Tom Dundon in the eye and offer his advice as the team's general manager.
Right.
Hey man, I got Joel Nystrom. I drafted him, or however they got him. He played 38 games. He blocked this many shots for this team to win a Stanley Cup. He's a black ace. He was traveling with the team. Maybe we don't put the 5 kids on there, and we figure something else out. Or maybe we put the there's room for 55 names, right?
Yes.
They said, and they went with 53.
Right.
Maybe we put the kids at the very end and make sure we get Bobby Gorman's name on there. But yeah, no, he's not catching any heat as he's never has. So, and I also will use this part of the show to point out that a lot of the players on this team were acquired by Don Waddell as well.
Also
so,
true.
Yeah. But anyways, so yeah, I mean this is the part of it where I start to be like this. It is funny because in a way, in like we're laughing because we saw this coming and nobody else thought that this guy was acting out of school. But this is the part where I like actually, as you said, with the kids, and I do kind of feel for the Bobby Gormans and Joel Nystroms and whoever the 3 minority team owners. We don't know their names yet, but whoever they are, because that's not cricket, man. You can't do this to these people.
Apparently, one of the minority owners is Bobby Farnham, who used to play in the NHL as well. What's funny about this whole thing to me is that this is almost the perfect encapsulation of like how Tom Dundon thinks. We found this out a lot during the whole Trailblazers thing when he wanted to fire the team's second mascot because he didn't see a reason for that. And he like let go of a reporter who had been covering the team for 30 years and like made all these changes. Like, it's totally Dundon to not put the equipment manager on the Stanley Cup, even though if you talk to any hockey player or any really professional athlete at all, these guys are their lifeblood. These guys would die for their equipment managers. I mean, the Rangers apparently were in open revolt last year against their general manager and coach, in large part because their longtime equipment manager now works for the Montreal Canadiens, where their former general manager works. Like, Jim Ramsey had been with the Rangers forever, or was he a trainer? Either way, it doesn't really matter. Like, those behind the scenes people are hugely important to the players and their everyday thing. I mean, these guys are creatures of habit to the nth degree. And so people like equipment managers and trainers and masseuses and all this they're super duper important to them. And to just leave him off the cup is the exact type of thing that Tom Dundon would.
Right, yeah.
Because he does not understand how vitally important this guy has been. Again, to reiterate, in case you missed it the first 3 times we said it, this guy was the equipment manager for the fucking Hartford Whalers. That means he's been here longer than any of these other guys because nobody here played for the Whalers, despite their, the fancy throwback jerseys that they want to sell you for $300. It's like, it's ridiculous that this guy got left off the thing. It's ridiculous that it happened in his final year. And it's ridiculous that this is how the owner thinks, that the equipment manager doesn't mean anything. And so what difference is it?
And it shows that, Tom Dundon probably despises Bobby Gorman because Bobby Gorman is just somebody who he pays and sees absolutely no tangible value. ROI, right? Well, what does he do? I'm sure that he's asked his people, like, do we even need one? Like, why can't the players just tape their own sticks and sharpen their own skates? Maybe they could get to the game a little earlier. Like, I can guarantee you that Tom Dundon has had these conversations. And Rod Brindamore is probably like, I'm going to fucking kill you. Like you don't go near Bobby. And we don't even, maybe Bobby Gorman is paid by Rod Brindamore like the assistant coaches are, right? We don't know. And that's the type of person that we're dealing with here. It's this is, what this is like? It's like you always see those stories about high school teams or college teams where like the manager gets on for like the last minute of the season or something. You know, this Tom Dundon would be the guy like, no, do not I know that he just spent 4 years doing the laundry, traveling with the team on the bus, and
for tracking all the games,
tracking the
scores,
games. Yep, exactly. You know, making sure that the lights are turned off on the gym and whatever. But that he's not. You know, he's not on the teams. We can't give him a jersey. So that's what this guy is.
You made me think now. Like, I'm picturing in my head Jordan Stahl passing a hat around. Like, so everybody throws in like $100 and that's Bobby's, salary for the month.
Yeah. Make sure. Hey guys, we were a little light last week on passing the hat.
You know,
we got Bobby and the other assistant, the assistant coach. I know that the assistant coaches got paid, but we didn't get Bobby. So
make sure nobody mentioned Bobby around when Tom is around. Make sure nobody mentioned Bobby. He thinks he fired him. But
yeah. Unpaid long-time equipment manager / intern.
And then as far as Joel Nystrom goes, again, 38 regular season games out of 82, that's almost half the season.
Right.
Like, I've seen people been like, well, there's rules and, we didn't play the whole season. Yeah, okay, 38 games, though. That's a lot of games. I mean, we talk about guys on Weird Islanders, the podcast, all the time that never even made it to 38 games with the Islanders, and we still remember them, So, I'm sure that he is, a valued member of that locker room amongst the players. And so that's a little bit ridiculous. The 3 minority owners, that sucks too, but like, they're owners, whatever. But 38 games is a lot. Like, had they lost a couple of those, they might not even be the Stanley Cup champion. So
I think of it like, as you said, we talk, Weird Islanders. Had the Islanders won the Stanley Cup in, 2019 or something, and or 2021. If they didn't put Ross fucking Johnston's name on the Stanley Cup, I'd be like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, he might have only played 15 games, but I can tell you right now that Ross the Boss was a massive part of that team. And, so it's and he certainly contributed more than Dax Dundon did. So
yeah, exactly. So it's not just that, LOL, this goofball put his kids on the Stanley Cup. It's this guy put his kids on the Stanley Cup and it cut some important members of the Hurricanes team off the cup. And, they had 2 more spots, but they didn't use them, which again, to me screams like, well, we got the guys I care about. So who, nobody else matters. Like, it's just very bizarre. So as I said, word got out sort of late last week, and it did not take long before people were in an uproar. It was the, sentiment was pretty universal. This sucks. And this is not right. And the other thing people thought of was, wait a minute, aren't there rules about who can and can't be on the cup? Because there are stories going back through NHL history of guys who have put people on the cup that weren't supposed to be there and got taken off. We'll get to one of them in a minute. But first, I want you to read this tweet here. It's by your friend, Jeff Merrick. You could do it in a very nice way, so Jeff won't be mad at you. But, this gets to, people were like, wait a minute, hold on, what a jerk this guy is. But then second, they thought of like, wait, aren't there rules about this? And Jeff fortunately gets to that and asks about it, although the answer is not pretty satisfying. So if you would please read the Jeff Merrick tweet about this situation and who can and can't be on the cup.
Yeah, when it comes to the minutia of NHL rules, there's nobody more. There's no more foremost expert than Jeff Merrick. So this was his chance to shine, and he tweeted on the Stanley Cup engravings controversy. Phil Pritchard (parentheses the keeper of the cup) at the Hockey Hall of Fame tells me the first time we saw the Stanley Cup with the Carolina Hurricanes engravings was late yesterday afternoon. We contacted the Hurricanes immediately and sent over a picture for them to use. The Hall did not see the names before they went on the cup, but that's not uncommon. Sometimes they don't see them at all.
I'm very confused. Again, I appreciate Jeff, trying to answer this question, but I'm very confused by this. We all know Phil Pritchard. He's the guy who brings the cup out to the ice, when the Stanley Cup
kind of looks like Boris Johnson.
And looks like Boris Johnson, and is only ever seen wearing white gloves.
Yeah.
Like, that's his whole thing, is he's got to put the gloves on before he can touch the cup. And so I find it very hard to believe that this guy will not touch the cup unless he's wearing these very special white gloves, and yet somehow they don't see the engravings before they they don't know who's going to be on it before they get on there. I find this very hard to believe. I just don't understand, like, why isn't there more kind of oversight over this very important item that seems to be overseen all the time? This, however, there was no oversight. That's very weird.
Yeah, I know. And yeah, I love it. I like, oh yeah, no. And we saw the names. We sent them the picture immediately. Like, great, man. I don't know. You didn't want to be like, are you sure?
Right.
And of course the Hurricanes, the most annoying PR, marketing, social media, digital media accounts out there were just like, very, what the tweet was very simple and just like slapped everyone in the face. And I know you just know that they'll be, because I'm sure Tom Dundon is the one tweeting half the time, they'll be making light of this or using this as rage bait for quite some time, because that's right up their alley, which is to do it. But the one thing I will say is that it did, at least, as upsetting as it was to see them win, having everyone get mad at them was a very, 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 very small silver lining.
Yeah.
Afterwards,
they are the most persecuted team in the NHL according to their fans. Despite the fact that everybody loves them, they are the one team that is always, the refs are always against us. Everybody's always against us. Yeah, sure. I don't know what social media sites you're reading, but not the ones I've seen for sure. They are not against the Hurricanes. If anything, they are far too for the Hurricanes. But yeah, this to me once Phil Pritchard's name was involved, I was like, okay, he's got to be pissed off about this, but apparently not. We'll get to at the end what I feel like is probably going to happen, but of course we haven't heard anything yet. But I just thought it was kind of funny that, the Hall does not see the names before they went on the cup, but that's not uncommon. Sometimes they don't see them at all. Well, maybe they should. Like, I don't. This is the Hockey Hall of Fame. Like, we're really going to have Tegan Dundon in the Hockey Hall of Fame now? Like, it's bizarre. But again, I appreciate Jeff trying to answer this question, but this is not a satisfying answer. I just realized it's almost like, if you've ever been at work and it's like somebody, a project isn't done and everybody's like, well, I thought he was supposed to do it. Well, I thought he was supposed to do it. Well, somebody was supposed to do it and they didn't do it. And now a word from our sponsors. VintageIceHockey.com. Over 100 classic hockey logos on t-shirts, jerseys, hats, mugs, and more. Long Island Ducks, Albany Riverettes, Danbury Trashers, Kentucky Thoroughblades, and so many more. Plus a full line of Islanders Anxiety merch, with our portion of the sales going directly to the Center for Dementia Research. These incredible items cannot be found in stores, so shop VintageIceHockey.com today. Relax, sit back, and enjoy wine from The Pinot Project. Rosé, Pinot Grigio, or a Pinot Noir that was named a Best Buy by Wine Enthusiast magazine. These wines are delicious, affordable, and available at area wine shops and at UBS Arena. Learn more at thepinotproject.com, and please drink responsibly.
With the all-new Dynasty Blueprint in EA Sports College Football 27, you can build your program by earning Dynasty points to spend on NIL, staff, and more. But the fun doesn't end at graduation. With the EA Sports MVP Bundle, get College Football 27, Madden NFL 27, plus Deluxe Edition rewards in both games. Make your rise with the MVP Bundle, available now at EA.com. Rated E for everyone with mild lyrics, user interact, and in-game purchases. Includes random items. Conditions and restrictions apply. See the link for more info.
What's that, bud? The Lincoln Summer Sales event is on now with exclusive offers? Oh, so you want to feel the wind pouring through the available open panoramic vista roof on a road trip? And spend the afternoon beachside hanging out on the back of the spacious Lincoln Splitgate? Okay, I'll schedule a Lincoln test drive today, right before your vet appointment. Visit your local Lincoln retailer or learn more at Lincoln.com.
This summer, soccer is here, and so are the watch parties. And Uber Eats has your game day essentials covered. Everything you need to keep your crowd happy, delivered straight to your door. Get wings, pizza, chips, dips, fresh ingredients, and more. Keep the soccer going and all your game day essentials flowing. Order in so you can lock in for the games. Only on Uber Eats for a limited time.
If we knew more about our sleep, what would we do differently? Would we go to bed at a consistent time or take steps to reduce interruptions to our sleep? With Sleep Score, Apple Watch measures your bedtime consistency, interruptions, and sleep duration. Then, every morning it combines these factors into an easy-to-understand score from 1 to 100. So you'll know how to take the quality of your sleep from okay to very high. Know your sleep score with Apple Watch. iPhone 11 or later required.
Tomorrow morning is knocking. Stock your fridge now. How about a creamy mocha frappuccino drink? Or a sweet vanilla? Smooth caramel maybe? Or a white chocolate mocha? Whichever you choose, delicious coffee awaits. Find Starbucks Frappuccino drinks wherever you buy your groceries.
But now I want to get to another helpful explainer. And this was where I first saw this. I kind of had seen a thing, people complaining about the Hurricanes. I didn't really know what was up. And then I went to Defector, which is one of my favorite sites. If you used to read the old Deadspin, everybody from there was let go through various bizarre and insane reasons still to this day. And they started Defector. It's a great site. It covers sports and pretty much every other subject under the sun. And they have a couple of great hockey people there. Barry Pacheski, who wrote this article here, Lauren Thiessen, who I do want to get on the show at some point. I saw her at a wrestling show I was at, and I thought it was her, and I didn't say anything, and I should have. And Ray Ratto, who is just, he's an incredible wordsmith, and is from the Bay Area. So those three kind of cover the hockey beat. And Barry's a Rangers fan, but he gets it. He's not an obnoxious one, thankfully. And again, this was where I first heard about this whole thing. And the title is, of course, Perfect Defector, which is, I'm not sure there are enough Dundons on the Stanley Cup. And again, this is by Barry Pacheski. And the article talks about the controversy, but also these unwritten rules that you were talking about and how this has kind of come up a few times. And there are generally guidelines in place for this sort of thing. And so he writes that there's any approval process at all is thanks to Edmonton Oilers owner Peter Pocklington, who after winning the title in 1984, had his father Basil's name engraved on the cup, despite Basil having nothing to do with the team. NHL executives forced the Hockey Hall of Fame to institute a Dominato Memore on Basil Pocklington, covering up his name with a bunch of X's. You can see this actually on the Stanley Cup. On the Dynasty-era Red Wings cups, there are 3 rows of Ilitches, but all of Mike Ilitch's 7 kids did co-own and work for the organization in one capacity or another. Various Dundon spawn do not work for the Hurricanes, possibly because, among other reasons, one of them is 7 years old. Panthers owner Vincent Viola put his wife and 3 sons on the cup in 2024 and 2025, but at least all 4 are listed as alternate governors of the team. The Dundon clan are not co-owners or governors, again, probably because they are children. Which really gets, again, to the heart of the matter. So, yes, other people have tried to put family members on the cup. Peter Pocklington's dad, Basil, was X'd out. And again, this is a very famous thing. You can see pictures of it. The Ilitch family and the Viola family, in some way, shape, or form, did work for those teams. And so they had claim to be on the cup legally, I suppose. And so they're there. And this, what's funny is the people that are kind of defending the Hurricanes are like, well, I don't know why anybody's mad about this. Vinny Viola put his wife on the cup and yeah, but she's like an alternate governor of the Panthers. Mike Ilitch's wife, Marion, is just as much an owner of the Red Wings as he is. So what is your argument? They're not 7 fucking years old. That's the problem here. It's not all family members are created equal in this situation. And so I thought this article was terrific. It's very funny. Go check it out. And whatever argument you have for this is pretty easily blown up. They don't work for the team. And there's one argument that we'll hear later on that really holds no water whatsoever if you're like a normal thinking person. But in any way, I just thought this was very funny and really strikes at the absurdity of this entire situation.
Yeah, exactly. Just really worth remembering and being reminded that 3 of these Dundons are 13 or younger or whatever it is. That they are, Rod Brendamore just watched, he coached this team through heartbreaking sweep after sweep in the Eastern Conference Final, and finally gets the Sebastian Ahos and the whoever else, the Jacob Slavins, the Jalen Chatfields
Brandon
over the
Bussey.
line. Yeah, exactly. A guy like that, like a guy who's journeyman in the minors, and he finds himself on the Stanley Cup after the 7-year-old. I got him. So, this is this is the type of article that I wish had been and have been more common about the Hurricanes over the past few years, because I feel like the Hurricanes are never the butt of the joke. They've been held in such high regard,
Right.
and off limits. And it took something like this to draw the snark out of these kind of folks. So I feel, in a weird way, I just feel vindicated by all this. It's so weird. It took the Hurricanes winning the Stanley Cup for me to feel vindicated about what we Islander fans saw from this franchise, and of course the owner is the one setting the example for them. So I do feel very vindicated reading this kind of stuff.
Right. And, I mean, oddly, him buying the Blazers vindicated us, because as we said, like the NBA guys did not fall for this horse shit. Like, he came in and started making all these cuts and firing people and wanting to let people go, and making the team masseuse and whatever, like, check out of the hotel so they don't incur the late fees and things like that, and not doing the t-shirts. They clocked this guy. In all fairness, Bill Simmons was the first guy to clock Tom Dundon as a El Cheapo, remember? So that already was very great vindication for us, and it didn't, that story didn't really filter into the NHL as the Hurricanes were on their way to the Stanley Cup, which is a little bit weird. Like, we're really not going to talk about this, even though this guy is, doing all this stuff while moving towards the Stanley Cup. Now they're kind of forced to, because he has dragged the Stanley Cup into the bullshit with him. Right. And now they have to.
Yeah, like I said, if had he said, accused Sidney Crosby of diving 6 years ago or something like that, he would have been found out a long time ago, but he never did. So we had to wait for this.
Yeah. The Hurricanes, he never did anything really terrible, with get into a big brawl with the Hurricanes, with the Penguins, I should say, in the middle of a season. But anyway, okay. So now, again, these are sort of, we've had an explainer tweet, we've had a satirical article that pokes fun at it and analyze it, but the rage was real, and the rage in a lot of cases was coming from the hockey media members, many of whom we make fun of a lot on this program and all of our programs, really, because a lot of them deserve the scorn, to be honest. And I have isolated 4 tweets here, all from different hockey media members from 4 different markets, who, again, we've talked about on this show a number of times, I think. And so do you want tweets 1 and 3 or 2 and 4?
I'll do 2 and 4.
Okay. All right. So I'll start. The first one comes from Mike Harrington, who of course covers the Buffalo Sabres and has for many, many years. And Mike Harrington is not one to shy away from his feelings. And he writes, "This is a disgrace. The Hurricanes owner has put the names of his wife and kids on the Stanley Cup above the team officials, coaches, and players. Rich people doing whatever they want is a massive problem in this society. How could the NHL let this happen?"
Mark Lazarus. I'll say this about the Dundon Stanley Cup thing. The, parentheses, presumably small but super vocal like everything else on this site, number of Canes fans nakedly, desperately, and angrily caping for the billionaire bursting with main character energy is incredibly emblematic of our times.
2 similar sentiments there from Harrington and Lazarus. Next is Josh Yowie. Of course, we've talked about on Master Penn's Theater a few times. He just keeps it short and sweet. What a pathetic thing to do. My God, indefensible. I wonder what Josh thinks is more pathetic, this or UBS arena workers smoking weed outside of the arena.
or accidentally tripping Sidney Crosby. Finally, we have Chris Johnston, a luminary from One of the OG voices of our flagship spin-off of the spin-off, Master Leaf Theater, tweets, "Let me be crystal clear here. If you didn't give every last piece of your being to earn this thing, you don't deserve to have your name engraved. If you're in primary school in Dallas when a team wins in Raleigh, forget it."
That's a good line by CJ. I like that last line. Yeah. Again, when guys like Chris Johnston are calling you out on this, you fucked up, because he is one of the key cheerleaders of the Hurricanes, because he hired a bunch of his friends. So yeah.
The Mark Lazarus too, like Matt, he's Mark, CJ and Mark both work at the Athletic, and they suffer from the same athletic brain, and that like fan, it's whatever they have been inflicted with over there. It's crazy, but so I was surprised to see Lazarus to do something like that, because as you said, like Eric Tulsky is essentially on the masthead at the Athletic. He's despite them not having a Hurricanes beat writer, he gets written about, and he gets hugged from afar more than anybody by that site. And I like that him and Mike Harrington, as you said, they have a similar lesson to be learned from here, which is that this is a societal thing, Right. Is this Mike? It's almost as if Mike Harrington is expecting this to be brought up on the floor of well, wouldn't it be Parliament for him because he's in Buffalo, right? So it would be the Senate or the House of Representatives, and this is, man. I don't think that, once again, outside of our little hockey world, which is very, very, very little, as we always say, not many people notice this or would understand why this is a big deal. So I don't think that it's going to have the outsized impact that these guys are imagining.
No, I definitely don't think. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there have been a lot of articles about it, but I don't know how far this story is going to reach. But I did. You talked about vindication. I did take some kind of comfort in like old dudes like Mike Harrington, who isn't always on the right side of topics. he was one of the main combatants in the war on analytics 10 years ago on Twitter, if you remember that. And he was not on the analytics side, let me tell you that. And Lazarus, former Newsday paperboy, Mark Lazarus.
Another one.
Yeah.
Could you believe it?
He's from the island.
No,
you would never know that from how he's covered the Islanders very, 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 very rarely in his career covering the Blackhawks. But yeah, that's true. But I do like how they said this, and like, not to go off on a whole thing here, but rich people kind of getting away with what they want is definitely a problem. Mike Harrington is 100% right. And like, it's why, if you look around, a lot of the societal sort of shared experiences that we used to have, we don't have anymore. Going to the movies is different now. Listening to music is different now. Watching TV is different now. Like, there's a reason why the Super Bowl is still like such a fun experience, because that's the one thing we're all watching at the same time. That's why the World Cup has been a lot of fun, because a lot of people are watching, and it's fun to have that sort of shared experience. Like now, I listen, I'm a bad example because all the music I listen to came out like 40 or 50 years ago, but there's no real shared music experience anymore. There's no like, oh shit, these guys have a new album come out, I gotta go buy it. Like that just doesn't exist really anymore. And forget about TV. I mean, how many streaming services do you subscribe to? I got at least 6 and it's like I watch one mainly, my daughter watches one mainly, my wife. So it just sucks that the most popular shows on quote unquote TV, a lot of times you never even heard of it, and it's just because some guy decided that we're going to do this way thing now, and it's like, yeah, but should we? Is that really the right way to do this? The best way to do this? And we all kind of lose a little thing here. And I know this is getting kind of far afield from Tom Dundon and his 7 kids in the Stanley Cup, but it is true. I mean, they're not wrong.
I think that's part of the outrage, right? It's like that,
right?
Everyone's kind of sick of it. Obviously, this is not a new problem. I think if you went back to Tudor England and you're like, well, what makes your life miserable? They're like, well, the rich people and the Lord.
Yeah. Right. They're dying of the Black Plague.
Yeah, right.
That kind of thing. So it's a little bit different than I have to subscribe to Netflix because my wife watches the show.
Right. But I know, I think that's part of it, is just people are sick of it. And seeing Mark Lazarus be one of the folks to attack Canes fans, like, you act like a Canes fan sometimes, Mark. Like you got the Eric Tulsky itis going. So
sure.
It makes me uncomfortable to just finally be in agreement with Josh Ohe on something and be like, oh man. But and I mean, as you said, CJ, man, like when I think of the people who helped Tom Dundon become Tom Dundon, I don't think CJ maybe is at the top of the list, where he's given him a platform and a pro bono PR basically for a guy who, as we especially discussed on Canesmas Carol, doesn't deserve that. But CJ certainly, I never saw the article on The Athletic, and maybe it's out there, CJ. If it is, I apologize, but I doubt it is. I did see the article in The Athletic in 2021 when the Canes were becoming everybody's hobby, where CJ wrote the scathing takedown piece of the owner, who quite clearly is not a good man, like right. We saw with them taking down Keith Pelly, right? Like right. where was that on Tom Dundon from right. the hockey media 5-6 years ago, a guy who certainly deserves to be scrutinized and never has been, by basically the only one who I feel like ever gets mad at him or has ever been like, this guy sucks, is Gary Bettman. He clearly doesn't like Tom Dundon, and I think maybe regrets letting him in. But
right,
yeah. So I would just bring that up to Mark and CJ and Josh, three like I said, three guys who were at The Athletic. Like, hey, where was this when this guy was climbing the social charts that right. over there? So
yeah. I mean, I might as well just get to it now. Imagine the Islanders win the Stanley Cup and John Ledecky puts his, multiple time gold medal winning niece, Katie Ledecky, on the Stanley Cup as a member of the Islanders. What do you think the reaction would be from these guys then? They would literally uncover every piece of dirt under John Ledecky and Scott Malkin and Oliver Harmons and any other, minority owner the Islanders have. Every piece of dirt under every single bed they have ever slept in would be found out, and they would be, they would be using that and trying to take them all down. And obviously that wouldn't happen, but it's not, dissimilar from what this would be. It would be like, they would all of a sudden, one minute they don't know who these guys are, the next minute they would be like, storming the gates with torches, like, ready to fix them. But believe it or not, I shouldn't say that. As Mark Lazarus put it, there were people defending this. And guess what? They're all Hurricanes fans. Shocking, right? A fan base that is quickly risen to amongst the most annoying in the NHL was all of a sudden like, what's the big deal? I don't see what the problem is. Now, in fairness, and this next comment we got from Reddit, r/Canes, there were tons of Hurricanes fans also that in agreement that this is bullshit and that they shouldn't have done this. And in fact, some of them went as far as to say, like, this is ruining the Stanley Cup. Like, as much as happy as I was 3 weeks ago, whatever it was, now I'm pissed off because this guy did something incredibly stupid. But there were a lot of people that were kind of defending it, or at least being like, this is nothing, who cares? And I found one that kind of, encapsulated all that. And the title of this post, again, on Reddit /r/Canes, was titled, "Calm Down. Why do y'all care so much about a man making his kid's life and putting them on the cup? He invested in the team, brought Roddy on as head coach, and consistently put on the pressure for us to win. And he did. If he believes his family played a role in helping make that happen, who are we to say they didn't? So why do you care so much that he wanted to put his 5-year-old on the cup and give his children the coolest gift ever? Go touch some grass and watch some Game 6 highlights if you need a reason to smile." And the first comment underneath that post was, "Found another Dundon burner account." Because there are Hurricanes fans who get why this is so ridiculous. But like, he made his kid's life by putting, okay, first of all, these kids are rich. I'm sure they're going to forget about this in a minute, but also like, the phrase "go touch some grass" I feel like applies to the OP in this case, the original poster. Like, what are you talking about? Like, what we have to be like, what leave the billionaire alone. What? Come on. I think you're the one who needs to go touch grass and realize, wow, that was a mistake, but I just thought this was kind of funny. There were a few people defending this, and this one I thought was one of the more entertaining ones, but I just thought it was funny. Like, we should be happy. First of all, he has the 5-year-old. I think it's 7, but so we should be happy that this kid's happy. Like, I don't really know why I'm supposed to be happy that this rich kid is happy.
Yeah, he gave his children the coolest gift ever. Like, it's weird. Yeah, and I mean, I have, when you were reading this and just when we were putting this together, I did try to put myself in their shoes, right? Like, if Tom Dundon was the Islanders owner and the Islanders won a Stanley Cup for the first time in my lifetime, like what would I feel? And I do think that I probably would be it'd be I'm sure, like with Knicks fans and James Dolan now, right? You're just kind of
look the other way.
Yeah,
basically.
right, exactly. But I want to give myself more credit that at least for the build up to this cup, I probably would be like, yeah, I don't really care for this guy, because I think one of the problems with sports now is that, like, we know so much about, like, everybody on the org chart. Like, part of hockey podcast discourse now is the term org chart. Like, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, it didn't matter who the assistant general manager for a team was, because we didn't need to know that. We found out the scores, the stats, the stories, and we moved on, because that's just how it was. But with the 24/7 media cycle and all that, now people are racing out of their cottage to let us know that Brandon Pridham, the assistant GM of the Maple Leafs, is now with Kyle Dubas in Pittsburgh, right?
Right.
So I like to think that I probably wouldn't have I probably would have been onto this before he won a cup, if he was the Islanders owner. Like, I think we'd probably be pretty against his moral compass in a way, but I do think about it. Like, what would I be doing? I'd just be so over the moon that I don't think I'd be defending something like this and being like, this I would just be like, fuck it, who cares? I just don't even want to pay attention to it. I'm just gonna continue to revel in the glory that happened. But it is giving me some joy to see some of these Canes fans be like, this is kind of ruining it for me.
Yeah.
I don't think I would let that happen. I wouldn't let it ruin it for me.
Yeah, there was more than a few that said that. And yeah, I've thought about that too. Like, listen, we talked about this when we did a Canesmas Carol. Like, you have to be on some level a rich asshole to own an NHL team or any professional sports team. Like, that's how it works, right? You make a ton of money and then you're like, let me go burn some of it by basically buying something that nobody else can own and is guaranteed to never make me any return on my investment. The Islanders owners have done some great things for them, specifically building UBS Arena at the cost of about $1 billion. It's a beautiful place. It's environmentally sustainable, all that kind of stuff. They did get a lot of tax breaks to do it, which is probably the best that we can hope for. No public money went into that, which is great, but they are getting a lot of breaks on the taxes. Don't forget, they had to build it where they built it because nothing was going to get built in Nassau County, that's for sure. But fortunately, the land at Belmont Park is owned by the New York Racing Association. So you can make a deal with those guys, put an arena there, and everybody wins, especially, once Belmont Park is done soon, and they'll have a nice big hotel complex there. And all of a sudden, you've got a nice hub of entertainment, which should be a lot of fun. They also foot the bill for the first new Long Island Railroad station built on Long Island in 50 years, which is not an insignificant, thing to mention. So these guys have sunk a lot of money into this team, which is very, very admirable. At the same time, they also built a upscale retail village across the street from Belmont Park that, as of right now, is basically hosting a lot of tumbleweed that's rolling past it. We don't know much about Scott Malkin as a person. He doesn't really live here in the States. He lives in England. We don't really know anything about him at all. We didn't know Oliver Harmon was a minority owner until he was photographed with his girlfriend Reese Witherspoon by Page Six. We were all like, "Wait, who? Who is this? What does he own? And who is he dating?" And we're more interested in Reese than him, to be honest, obviously. And John Ledecky is the guy who walks around smiling, shaking hands, and handing out big checks to people, and season tickets, and seems like a really super nice guy. And if something came out about him that wasn't so nice, it would suck. But I feel like, we would call them out on it. We've been shitting on Belmont Village since the moment they built it. So I feel like, and like it's kind of small potatoes, like building an unpopulated luxury retail mall isn't like giving out subprime auto loans and becoming a billionaire.
Yeah.
So we're kind of lucky in that case.
The point I was trying to make was we're not. I'm not like rude. I'm not cheering. Let's go Islanders, Scott Malkin. And like, but it feels like this person is.
Yes.
And it's not just this person, but this is a thing now in sports where it's like I'm rooting for the director of accounting at Ford Performance Center.
Right. I'm rooting for the Penguins now as my second team because of Kyle Dubas there.
Yeah, Kyle Dubas. Yeah, that's
so
exactly
right. That's pretty bad. Anyway, we have one final thing to get to here, and it also comes from r/Canes, and this was from the main story about this, which was called Stanley Cup Engravings, and it had 300 plus comments. This was where you saw this is where I saw the majority of the Canes fans like, this is bullshit. Like you can't do this kind of thing. And there were some people being like, oh, what's the big deal? But they all got downvoted pretty hard. And I spent a little time in there, and I wanted to find something to kind of wrap this up with and find a comment that I thought was insightful and hopefully funny. And I found one here that I thought really kind of got to the heart of everything we've been talking about now for a little bit over an hour, and why this is so wrong. We can talk about, unwritten rules and the influence that money has on society and all this kind of stuff here. But ultimately, I think it comes down to this here. And why don't you take it home for us? This is, again, a comment from r/Canes/Stanley Cup Engravings. You can go read it. I have the link there. And I think it gets to why this is so disturbing on so many levels, even though it's both completely nothing and also incredibly disturbing at the same time. And I think this comment really, really ties home why that is.
You got it. Imagine spending your whole life busting your ass to get your name engraved on this cup, trying and failing over and over again until your dream finally comes true. And then you see that some 5-year-old brat gets his name on the cup next to yours. I would be pissed.
And pissed is in all capital letters
Yep.
there. Yeah, I mean, that's it.
Yeah.
Like, you're a player and the owner's 7-year-old daughter
Right.
is on the cup and I'm not. Like, I'm
Right. It's we make fun of like the kind of like, I don't know, pageantry and all that around the league and how serious people take a lot of certain things, but it's I would agree that it's just that last comment really puts it in perfect perspective, which is like, yeah, these guys were like 4 years old, started skating, spent hours and hours and hours in the gym and trainers' tables, getting hurt, getting new teeth, all that stuff. And then just to see it minimized like that right away too. Like just think about, just once again, like Jalen Chatfield, the guy who's just an absolute, bruiser, does that, like just throws himself in front of pucks, eats pucks, plays hard minutes, hits everything, etc. And he's had to play that style of game to make his career, and he was like on the verge of kind of dropping out of the league. That goes to the Canes, becomes this kind of specialist, right? Defensive specialist. Nothing glorious about what he does, and he finally gets his name on the cup. And to get to his name, he's got to go through a 7-year-old. Like that.
Right.
It really does minimize what the Stanley Cup stands for,
right.
In a lot of ways, and I'm very happy that he did it, because it just means that now people are starting to see the facade here.
Right. I read this and I appreciated the comment. I thought it was funny, but I did think that, in hockey culture, a lot of the players would probably be like, no, man, that's okay. And like, then 10 years from now, they'll be telling this story on spitting chiclets or something, and Biz will be like, "No way, that fucking sucks," and he'd be like, "Yeah, it was pretty tough. It was pretty tough." Meanwhile, they just kind of let it happen because they don't have much else. They can't really do anything about it, and that's where it gets you. We haven't heard anything about this since it went pretty quiet over the weekend. The whole story, again, this happened sort of late last week, the second week in July. I'm guessing at some point the NHL will probably step in and be like, you gotta change this. Like, you can't make a big stink. The Peter Basil Pocklington thing is like etched in NHL lore, pun intended. You can't just let this guy do this, because you're just going to open the floodgates for the next guy to come in and list his entire family on there with no players whatsoever. Like, they have to step in and change this. Maybe not put the X's on there, but have it re-engraved, put a new thing on there, have Dundon put out a statement being like, listen, I had the best of intentions. I did not realize that I was, going against NHL, protocol and regulation here. And I didn't mean anything by it. I was just trying to, do something nice for my kids or whatever. And then we could all forget about it by September. But I mean, they can't just let this stand. Like, it's so against NHL norms, and again, flies in the face of so many of these things. I mean, so fine, Mike Ilitch has a couple of kids there, but they were all adults working for the team. They weren't 7 fucking years old. The same with Vinny Viola's family. Like, they have, I'm sure alternate governor for the Florida Panthers is not the most strenuous job in the world. I'm sure Viola is just paying his brothers or kids or whatever to just, walk into an office with an empty briefcase, like George Costanza and the Penske file. But at least there's something legal there. There's some kind of paper trail, like, oh, this guy's an alternate governor for the Panthers. It's okay that he's on the Cup. These kids, and again, it's no fault of the kids. Like, I don't fault the kids for this. I don't want people to think that, like, we're coming down on the kids, but like, they are stuck now in this situation where they are being dragged in a way that they don't deserve because their dad fucked up. Like, this is stupid, and he should be, called upon to fix the situation and have the poor 90-year-old guy from the watching over the Holy Grail, re-engrave this stupid thing. Maybe Tom Dundon should have to re-engrave the whole stupid cup. It'll take all year to do it, but it just, they can't let this stand. Like, they just can't. And it just, it bugs me as a fan of hockey and a fan of, again, we talk about hockey history all the time. We have a whole other podcast about the weirdest goofball history of this weird goofball team. And like, how would you like it if, I don't know, Bill Torrey, I know Bill Torrey's kids are great. They're on Twitter. Rich Torrey, he's an artist. He seems like a super nice guy, but like, I don't even think him, when, I don't know how old he was when the Islanders first won the Cup, but like, he might've been in college or something. I don't think he would have necessarily wanted his name on the Cup unless he worked for the team. Maybe he was, a scout or something, but I don't think he was. But it's just not right. Like, there's room there for some family members if they have an official capacity with the club, but sorry, just being kids just doesn't cut it. And I'm sorry to be the one to tell the Dundon kids they don't belong on the Cup, but sorry, kids, you don't belong on the Cup, and that's how it is. And I think we're also learning, as we've been saying throughout this whole time, that a bad dude is a bad dude, and sometimes a dude is a bad dude even if he wins. And no amount of hockey Twitter circle jerk data analysts to be hired is going to change that. Like, you can hire all your friends, all your follows, and all the people in your DMs that he wants. He's still kind of a dick. And we have learned beyond a shadow of a doubt over the last several months that Tom Dundon is indeed an enormous dick. So maybe he does have something in common with Jerry Jones, and that they're both enormous assholes. But at least Tom Dundon has a Stanley Cup or has a championship this century. So he's got that in his pocket. But otherwise, these are two guys you don't want to just hang with. Like, I just feel like they're bad hangs and just not good dudes. So I don't know. I guess rant over. But anything else on this whole situation? Which, again, I feel like the NHL has to fix this. Like, they can't
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what they do at that point. But yeah, no, I think what you said is right, and it's a good lesson, and about how just because a guy will. A bad guy will return your text message and say that they were kicking tires on Dylan Larkin. doesn't mean he's like the coolest guy out there,
right?
So
who I've heard is in on Connor Hellebuck? Carolina. Watch out for Carolina here.
Tom Dundon will be in on everything this summer. Yeah. He's not like right away. How many people had to say like he's not going to be satisfied?
Right. Yeah.
Shut up. Hopefully those people who were stumping for him as hard as they were feel like they've got some egg on their face. But I honestly don't think that they do. I don't. Who, me? No, I was never
right.
Like,
right. I would never back the wrong horse
right
in any race. We've always been right. I've known this guy, the whole time. So yeah, okay. Anyway, we thank you so much for listening. This was a fun one. As soon as we saw this, we knew we had to do something about it again. Thanks to Canesmas Carol. If you missed that, go back and listen to it. That was a fun one from before they won the Cup. About Tom Dundon buying the Portland Trailblazers. And again, the NBA guys, they did not fall for all this. they knew who was coming a mile away, and they haven't let him have a moment's peace since. And hopefully, the whole thing continues to get much worse for him as things go on. But we will be back again, barring any weirdness with the Islanders or maybe another fun thing later on this summer. We'll be back in October. But if you want more content from us, check out patreon.com/IslandersAnxiety. And there's free stuff there too you could check out if you're interested. So thanks for listening, and we will talk to you again very soon. Take care. Bye.